All right, everyone, welcome to the first Crisis Corner of 2021. Thank you all so much for coming out. My name, of course, is Crisis, and this is your spot where we talk about all things gaming to get stuff out of the way and do some bill paying. This stream, like all streams, are brought to you by Clutch Energy. You can use exclamation point clutch in chat. Both Don and I have codes right now. I am drinking cherry mixed with lemonade. Can 100% recommend. Also, code Crisis gets you 20% off. Code Don Tony will get you 20% off. But if you use code Crisis, that goes to charity. So use code Crisis instead. But yes, as mentioned, we have my buddy Don Tony Lamb here. He is a licensed therapist. And since we're going to be discussing mental health and everything, we're going to have him on. And also making his try return here, the one, the only Andrew doing all right, Gebbia. How you boys doing?
I'm good.
I'm doing all right. Pretty much just summed up, like, taking my answers away from me. Like, come on.
For those of you who don't know, Andrew has a podcast that he does called Because Video Games with Jake Baldino from Game Ranks. And Jake always asks him, how are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing all right. So it's either I'm doing all right or I'm doing good. And that's basically, but mostly he's doing all right. So that's his new nickname there.
Doing all right. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna pitch that to Jake. Like, yo,
Change your
one of those
business.
little desk plaques. Yeah.
Change your business cards. Andrew doing all right, Gebbia. But anyway, for those of you who don't, you guys know Andrew. He's been here before. We don't really need an introduction for him. But Don, why don't you give us the quick TLDR of who you are, what you do, and kind of why you're here?
Yeah, so my name's Don Tony. I am a Twitch streamer, avid video game player, but the reason I'm here is I'm a licensed therapist. So I have my LPC license in the state of Virginia. I've been in the field about 10 years, have my undergrad in psych, master's in counseling, and fully licensed.
Yeah, so like I said, 2020 was a shit year for a lot of people. A lot of people, you know, their mental health wasn't in a great spot. And I know myself, gaming really helped me get through some of the dark parts of 2020, as I'm sure both of you can attest, and those of you in chat or whoever, maybe if you're watching this later on YouTube, you can probably attest to as well. So now that we're in a new year, we're in 2021.
Hard to say that, isn't it?
I know, it's so weird.
Yeah, there's something
Like,
about it.
And I will
hate
say
it.
though, like luckily I've gotten myself out of the habit of like for the first month or two of a new year, still writing the old like year, right? So like I've gotten myself, it only took me to get to 30 to do that, you know? So now that I'm in my 30s, I can finally move on to the next year without constantly writing the previous year for like the first month or two. So
Congratulations,
hey.
you're a grown up now.
I know. I did the thing, gentlemen. I'm an adult now. But yeah, so because of that, I kind of wanted to make the first episode back kind of like talking about 2020, talking about, COVID-19 and how it's affected us, how it's affected what we do with work, because all three of us are in different fields. Andrew is obviously an editor for Game Ranks. He's a producer as well. I work with people who have disabilities, and Don is a therapist. But the one thing that kind of brings us all together is gaming, right? And that's gaming connects the world, it connects the people, which is why we're also supporting Able Gamers this year. All through 2021, I will be not accepting donations personally. All donations will be going to Able Gamers. So if you can and you would like to, exclamation point Able Gamers in chat. You can see the banner up top. We already hit the $500 goal, which was to shave my beard, which happened way quicker than I thought it was going to. And it sucks not having facial hair in the winter in the Northeast. So that sucks. But the next goal, $1,000, I end up like Andrew shaving my head. So there we go. Yeah,
What you got under there?
$1,000.
I don't even know. I don't think I've ever seen that dome.
We'll do that off stream.
Okay.
But yeah. So I kind of wanted to bring this episode together to kind of talk about everything happened in 2020 and then what we're kind of looking forward to in 2021. So, with that being said, gentlemen, 2020. We didn't see a lot of games come out in 2020 strictly because COVID kind of delayed everything. I mean, you look at games like Cyberpunk that was supposed to come out in February or March, got delayed all the way to November. We didn't even know if we were going to see it in last year. So, but of all the games that came out in 2020, what were your favorite games that actually came out in 2020?
You cut out for a second.
You cut out,
You can
Andrew?
go first if you want.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like my favorite game of 2020, so I have two. My favorite game in the game I spent the most time on that's new in 2020.
Well, that's the
My
next
favorite
question,
game-
Don.
Is it?
Yeah. Game that
No,
got
no,
you through
no, no.
2020.
No, I'm saying there's two games that came out in 2020.
Oh,
that I
okay.
played. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the game that got me through 2020 didn't come out in 2020.
Okay.
So Fall Guys would be my favorite of 2020. Would be Fall Guys. It's amazing. It's fun. I actually just got a crown again last night. So woo.
Humble
And then I
brag.
guess Call of Duty Cold War, I guess, would be like the other 2020 game I played, but
Cool.
it's not the best though. Fall Guys is definitely better.
Yeah. I still haven't gotten into Fall Guys. I still got to give that game like a shot. One
It's
day.
fun.
We'll see.
Don and I were
It's a good
playing
game.
because like the Siege servers went down one night, so we were like, "Fuck it, we're gonna switch over to Fall Guys." And literally, I was just casting us, like shout casting a Fall Guys match.
was fun.
It was so
I
good,
still don't even know
man.
what that game is or like how it works. Like
So
I'm
it-
like,
It's
like
just a party
Extreme
game.
Ultimate- Yeah, it's Extreme Ultimate Challenge, whatever that like old game show was, where you have like obstacle courses, but it's
Yeah.
a battle royale. So it's like 60 people load in. Each round, people are disqualified, and then
Okay.
the last one standing wins.
Yeah, it's like MXC on steroids.
That's what I meant. Most Extreme Ultimate, whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
meant.
I know Andrew's old enough to remember MXC.
I'm a little foggy, but I'm
It was like the Japanese. It was like the Japanese show where there's it was like a parody thing where there was like obstacle courses where they had to like run across and do all kinds of funny things. It was on
Is that
Spike
where they do, like,
TV.
Human Tetris.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then, okay. Yeah. Then, all right.
Yeah, it was on Spike TV. TV for guys. Whatever happened to
got it.
Spike TV?
I think it's still
Anyway.
Yeah, it's still there. It's just lame now.
Anyway, Andrew, favorite game of 2020?
My 2020 game of the year was Last of Us Part 2. Actually, that was my favorite game from last year. Definitely not the game I played the most. I definitely sunk a lot of time into other things, but Last of Us Part 2 was like, that's a perfect video game. And I spent a lot of time in Demon Souls. That was like my December game. That's like all I played. But that was it. And I platinumed it. I beat it like 3 times. I did everything there was to do. I know that game like the back of my hand now. So yeah, definitely those two for me.
So Demon Souls speedrun incoming on the Game Ranks channel.
Definitely not.
I agree with you.
Definitely
Last of Us Part 2 was my game of the year. Because The Last of Us, the first one, is my all-time favorite game of all time.
Perfect game. So
Yeah, the story behind Ellie and Joel, and then obviously spoiler alerts for anyone. The game's been out for almost a year now, so pause or mute the stream if you don't want to hear this. I'll give you a thumbs up when we're done here. But just the story that Ellie had to go through, you know, especially it was kind of tropic when like she just had the argument with Joel and then like Joel died like the next day. You know, and we see that all the times in movies and stuff where it's like, oh, I wish my last words to this person would have been something different or whatever. And it kind of does make you think like you should kind of be careful how you talk to people because you never know, you know, when you could be saying your last words to them. But just the scenery and the story and everything about it. Like, I just spent a lot of time, especially in the early game when you're riding around on the horse, like just looking at, like, Naughty Dog made me want to go to Seattle, right? Like,
Yeah.
just to go there, you know, and obviously it would be in a different state than what it's portrayed as in The Last of Us Part 2, but it's still just like, I kind of want to go to Seattle, like just to, because you can see like the street signs and everything else and some of the buildings. And when you look at developers like Rockstar, right, who did GTA in Los Angeles, it looks like Los Angeles, you know? And
Weird.
I want to go see like the differences between The Last of Us Part 2, how they portrayed Seattle and like what Seattle actually looks like just being up on the highway and everything. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, I'm the same with you. I beat Last of Us Part 2 and then kind of, spoiler alerts are done. You guys can unmute now. I played it, beat it, loved it. Looking forward to any DLC that they might release for it. I know they're talking about bringing factions back, the multiplayer.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. I love factions.
It was so good, man.
It was better than it had any right being.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because you got
Same
this
with
single,
the Uncharted multiplayer, like just.
yeah, you got this single player story based experience, and then Naughty Dog's like, here's some multiplayer, and they just like kind of like,
And it's
hey,
good.
it's here, and it's so good, it's
Yeah.
so good. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most. And then I guess
the PS5 upgrade to come out, so I can.
the game that I guess I played the most in 2020 was Tarkov. Like, I picked up Tarkov halfway through the year and put 600 hours into it. Like, I think I'm currently sitting at about 800 hours in Tarkov, and I just picked it up in like June or July of last year. So
you have more hours in that than I do of Destiny.
I know I don't have more in it than I have in Destiny, because in Destiny 1 alone, I had 30 days on my hunter. Like 30 24-hour days on my hunter. That was just my hunter. And I played all the classes in Destiny 1. And then in Destiny 2, I kind of fell off of, just because all my friends fell off of it, and Destiny by yourself is not fun. Like, there's so much grinding to do, and I just kind of fell off of it. And every time I see a new expansion, I'm like, I'm going to get back into Destiny. And then I realize I have nobody to play with. So, it kind of is what it is. But yeah, Tarkov definitely is what I spent the most amount of time in 2020. But
So did Tarkov allow you to get like new perspective on the year 2020 of like it could be worse, like could be real life Tarkoving, like like a game so brutal and painful and hellish? Did it make you look at life in 2020 and be like, it's really not that bad? It could be worse.
No, like, I get where you're coming from, and it's sort of a joke, but no, the reason people ask me, why do you like Tarkov so much, right? And Don, you were streaming it last night, and your wife asked, like, this game doesn't look like any fun, and it's not. Tarkov is not fun at all. It's dick punch simulator.
What makes it fun?
What makes it fun is the nuances in the game, right? Like, if I want to build a speedy boy kit, and be light and fast and have a really fast firing gun, I can do that. If I want to be Mr. Tank Boy, I can load up a meta M4 with Gen 4 armor and an Alt-in and go be Mr. Tank Boy and just watch bullets bounce off of me, when you look at games like Siege, which is another one that I've invested way too much time into, Siege is a game of reflexes, but it's also a game of knowledge. I can't keep up with the zoomers anymore. I'm just too old. My reflexes are going downhill. That's what happens as you get older. But in Tarkov, I can outsmart my opponents. I can flank them. I can, use my kit against them, depending on what, they might have. So with Tarkov, there's so much nuance to the game. And it's kind of like, I haven't found a game like Tarkov that has made me just be like, this is interesting. This is a whole new way to play a game since Siege. Right? When I first started playing Siege, I was like, dude, this game, like, I played Siege in the beta and I was like, this game's going to pop. I knew from the beginning that this game was going to pop off. And Tarkov is kind of making me feel the same way that Siege made me feel at the very beginning. Right? And I think that's why I'm just drawn so much to Tarkov, because there's just so much you can do. Right? Like in Siege, no two rounds play out the same. Right? Dawn knows this. No two rounds ever play out the same in Siege. No two raids in Tarkov are ever the same. And I love that, right? If you hop into Call of Duty, it's the same map. You're going to get the same rushes with the same kill streaks. And Tarkov, you can go 40 minutes in a raid in Tarkov and never fire a bullet. But at the same time, you can spawn in and have 4 PMCs up your ass in 10 seconds, depending on where you spawn and what map you're playing and everything else. So, I think that's just the kind of game that I'm attracted to, is like, I never play the same thing 2 times in a row, right? So I think that's why I just love Tarkov so much. And it's just different, man. It's so brutal and it's so unforgiving. But man, the raids where you come out with 3 raiders worth of loot and you've killed a couple chonky PMC boys, like,
you gotta feel so good.
Oh man, it's so good. And Don's starting to realize that. Like, that's one of the things he's starting to get, is like, man, when you win, the highs are high, but when you spawn in and get bopped, the lows are low. So, And that's just why I love Tarkov so much. But that's enough about me and Tarkov. Although I could do an entire podcast based on Tarkov.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
So we've talked about our favorite games that came out in 2020. Let's talk about the games that got us through 2020. So not necessarily games that came out in 2020, but just like your comfort game that you played that kind of just got you through, like, man, I'm having a shit day, let me log on and just kind of play this game for an hour or whatever, just to kind of like get you through the end of your day so that you had a little bit of warm feeling at the end of the day. So let's talk about that. Dawn, you went first last time. Let's let Andrew go first this time.
I don't really have a game, like one. It'd be more of like types of games. I went really heavy into single player games this year, especially towards the last half. You know, I spend a lot of my time playing multiplayer games with like, the crew that I roll with when we play games, usually Destiny, but we all kind of fell off Destiny. So I started playing a lot of single player stuff. You know, I revisited Sekiro finally, and that clicked, and I went all in on that.
Great game.
Love it. I'm gonna replay it as soon as we're done with Bloodborne. Then I replayed like Fallen Order, replayed God of War, replayed Uncharted 4. Just replayed a lot of stuff this year, and some newer stuff too. Like, went hard with like Valhalla, and I played Ori and Will of the Wisps. But I did a lot of single player stuff, like a lot of like I don't know. I think it kind of like went along with like quarantine, where you're kind of like, I spent the first half of quarantine in a relationship, and then the second half up until now not in a relationship. So I had a lot of alone time, and I spent that alone time playing games like alone and not with my friends like I usually would. And I kind of found like peace there, honestly. And I'm still just barely playing multiplayer games. I'll jump on Apex, play like 2 rounds, and I get bored and I jump off. I just want to get back to my like whatever game I'm working my way through currently. So just single player games in general was like my comfort food.
I think one of the things that I'm starting to realize now as I get older, because when I was younger, single player games were really all we had, right?
Yeah.
Like, then as I got to like my teenage years and a little bit older, that's when multiplayer games really started to come out. But now that, I'm 30 now, I'll be 31 next month, I've fallen back in love with single player story games. Like you said, God of War. The God of War that came out, 2 years ago, fantastic. I went back and replayed Spider-Man. Even before Miles Morales came out, I just went back and replayed Spider-Man because it was such a good game, and then obviously played Miles Morales when it came out as well, which was fine. It was good. It's
I love it.
Personally for me, it wasn't as good as the OG,
Oh, no.
but it was still very good. I think at the price point of $40, you can't be disappointed. But that's something that I'm starting to realize is like single player games, and like you with quarantine, like I just had so much time to go back and play games that I'd never play. I never finished Bloodborne, so I went back and played it. I was like, I got it.
Yeah,
might as well play it.
I never finished it.
Control. I finally had enough time to sit down and play Control at actually your recommendation. Very good game. Played games like Dead Cells and Ori Whisper. Like just so many good single player games. And now that I'm getting older, I can have the appreciation for those again. So. All right, Don, let's hear it. I'm pretty sure I already know what your game is, but
yeah, I may surprise you here. So, I mean, on stream, it's been this 2020 was no different as far as I primarily played Siege, like on stream. But so at the beginning of the pandemic, I switched jobs. So I left my old job where I work, 50 hours a week to go back to private practice. So the beginning of the pandemic, I was very underworked. I still am, honestly. I'm still building my caseload. But so the daytimes were really boring. Our bloodhound was still really young, so he needed constant supervision. So the game that actually got me through all that was Witcher 3. I actually never played that previously.
Cool.
And I have an Xbox, so I just brought my Xbox to the living room so I could hang out with the puppy. And Witcher 3, I'd say, is what got me through like the most frustrating, boring days. Was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go be a badass Witcher now.
Geralt is so goddamn cool.
How many times did you say fuck, Don?
While playing Witcher?
Did you watch the show on Netflix?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's the joke.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love the character. The game was awesome. Yeah. So I guess that's what I would say. But like, all in all, honestly, I mean, I guess we'll get into this too. But all in all, 2020 really hasn't been that tough on me. So I don't know if I needed a game to get me through it, but if I had to pick a game, I'd say The Witcher 3 probably.
I kind of fall more in line with like Andrew, where it wasn't one game specifically; it was more like a genre. And a lot of people might not even know this about me, but I'm a huge sports fan, right? I love sports. I used to play sports growing up and whatnot. We're gonna be watching the Super Bowl and stuff tomorrow. I watch
That's
UFC.
tomorrow?
Yeah, Super Bowl's tomorrow, bro. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Tonight our buddy and Rainbro, Mike Rodriguez is fighting in the UFC, so I'm gonna be watching that. But the thing that got me, like, sports games, man, MLB The Show and Madden, like games that I could literally just sit down, shut my brain off,
Yeah, man.
and just play, right? Like those, and that's really the only reason my PS4 has been turned on. Like since The Last of Us Part 2, it's really only been turned on to play like MLB The Show and Madden, and that's it. Because everything else I primarily do on PC again, or PC now. But yeah, man, it's sports games for me have always kind of been therapeutic. I can just shut my brain off, because there's no real like thinking when it comes into sports games, right? It's like you pick a play, you run the play in football, or you swing the bat in baseball. That's really all there is to it. I don't have to think, oh, I got to put this reinforcement up here, and then I got to make this rotate hole, and I got like games like Siege and Tarkov and stuff really utilize your mind in your strategy building, which is great. But sometimes you just want to shut your brain off, and just play a simple game. But so yeah, I would say throughout the year it was sports games most, but I did start playing a lot of single player game. Kakarot, I spent a ton of time in Kakarot, like just flying around because I grew up watching DBZ. Obviously, got the Majin Vegeta, which is the best version of Vegeta, by the way. Got the Majin Vegeta shirt on. So yeah, just games like that, and also just I probably watched more anime in the last year than I have in a long time, just because I had so much time to watch like actual shows. So that was probably through that. So let's talk about 2021. We're over 2020 for now. Let's talk about 2021. What are some of the games you're looking forward to, either this year or maybe they haven't been fully announced for this year, but of the games that we kind of know are coming, what's one you're looking forward to the most?
Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6. Let's go.
We'll
That's
see.
my answer. That's my answer.
We'll see. Till they come out and be like, yeah, this is gonna be a Civil War aged Battlefield. Fire your musket and you gotta sit there and.
I would actually be kind of into that, but that's not what I want. I'd rather just like straight up Battlefield 6.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 8 for me is probably my most anticipated right now. That and that indie game Little Devil Inside. I'm really excited for that game. Those are my two most anticipated.
Have you been caught getting Hordy on main over Lady Damasitru and all that?
No, I praise her privately.
See, everybody's obsessed with her, man. It's funny because like her daughter, the one with the hood and everything, looks like somebody that I actually dated at one point. So it's kind of like, huh, that's weird.
Doing
like,
something for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's a little, huh. As a big Resident Evil fan, I'm looking forward to that one as well. I want to see where because Resident Evil 7, I know a lot of people were like, this is trash. This isn't Resident Evil anymore.
Hey,
yeah,
a lot
Mo.
of people didn't like 7?
Yeah, Mo.
Really?
Talking to you specifically. Weirdo.
I thought I got good praise from what I heard.
Yeah, a lot of the die-hard fans were like, this isn't Resident Evil. It's trash.
I consider myself a die-hard fan, though. I love the shit out of that game.
Resident Evil is my favorite franchise of all time, and I'm like, 7 wasn't that bad. Like,
I like
it
7
was,
a lot.
it was, yeah, it wasn't that bad. I'm looking forward to that one. I know it hasn't been confirmed yet, but whenever the new God of War comes out, Ragnarok, I want to play that so bad.
I think this year will be Horizon.
and that's what I'm looking forward to. That was gonna be my next one, the new Horizon game. Horizon Zero Dawn ranks right up there as perfect video game for me. It was so good. Like, so when I first played Horizon Zero Dawn, I didn't even buy it. I was working at GameStop at the time, and everybody that worked at my local GameStop were Xbox guys, right? I was the only PlayStation guy there. So the manager was like, "Hey, we got this free code for Horizon. Do you want it?" And at the time, I didn't even know what the game was. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." And I'll see. And I got hooked, like, instantly. Bought the DLC the second it came out. Like, and I always tell people, like, if you're looking for a good story game, dude, go buy Horizon Zero Dawn, because Aloy's such a cool character. Her whole story is awesome. So yeah, it's what, the Frozen Wilds, I think is what it's called.
I think so.
Yeah, that's my most anticipated game, is the new Horizon, because it is slated to come out this year, and I think I'm probably gonna get the PS5 when it comes out, because I'm gonna want to play that game in its full, like, glory that you're gonna be able to play it in. So
it's interesting that both of your anticipated games are PlayStation exclusive.
it's because we're Sony ponies.
Yeah, I guess. Well, that, and also, what's an Xbox exclusive?
There is not, right? Yeah.
Halo.
Also
Halo.
PC. Yeah.
Oh, it's Halo. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, Halo.
Yeah. If
Okay.
you want to go back to 1994. Sorry.
I forgot about that. I'm excited for Halo Infinite. I'm just not getting my hopes up yet.
Yeah, I mean, we still might not even see that one. I guess
That's what I'm saying.
kind of like an honorable mention, I'm looking forward to the Mass Effect reworks or remasters, I guess, because I grew up playing the Mass Effect games. They're so cool. They're gonna let you play female Shepard through all of them now if you want to, which is really cool.
Cool.
There's a dedicated melee button now, thank God. Like, so yeah, I'm looking forward to those ones too. But my like number one game that I'm looking forward to is Horizon. So let's bring it back down a little bit. Let's talk about how the pandemic kind of affected us, right? And we talked about a little bit, like, what games kind of got us through the pandemic and everything. And again, we all do different jobs. We all do different things. Again, I work with people who have disabilities. Don's a therapist, and Andrew works for a YouTube channel. So let's kind of talk about how living in, and we're all East Coast, but we're all different places on the East Coast. Andrew's in New York, I'm in Pennsylvania, Don's in Virginia. So it's kind of like you've got Andrew's in very, populated New York. I'm dead center in the middle of Pennsylvania, and I'm surrounded by farms and small towns. And then you have Don, who lives in the middle of the bush, obviously. Just look at his hair. So let's kind of talk about how it's affected us and how we worked, and just kind of our overall in general, what the pandemic did to our areas. So you guys have been going first. You want me to go first this one?
Sure.
All right. So I'm an essential worker. I didn't get to stay home during quarantine. I was out in it the entire time, and I've been out in it the entire time. Always masked up, though. Wear your goddamn masks, people. So yeah, I've been out in it since the beginning. It's been tough mentally, because we've had moments of being overworked, moments of being underworked, moments of being overworked again, and then being underworked again. But also, a lot of the individuals that I work with go to day programming. So for those of you who don't know, it's day programming for people who have disabilities. Is you get a bunch of adults who have disabilities together, and they go and they socially interact, and it's kind of like their work, basically. Like, they go there, they do things and whatnot, and that's all been shut down. So their routines have been just in shambles, and that means that now we are the ones who have to pick up those pieces and deal with behaviors and deal with all those incidents. So it's been mentally rough on that aspect as well. But for the most part, my life didn't really change, because again, I'm an essential worker, quote unquote. So I never stopped going to work. I never worked from home, never did any of that. The only thing that really changed for me was how much I was working versus how little I was working. That was really the only thing that changed for me. So yeah, it didn't really affect me that much. So yeah, I just go to work and then come home. Like, that's pretty much the same. So
Not much changed for me work wise. Just my location. You know, we have an office that me and Jake go to. During the beginning, we, you know, went exclusively work from home. For the first few months, we did. And then our team of 3 got moved to we became a team of 2. So we started going to the office a little bit more. The office is big, so we're able to like really sit across and be separate. And me and Jake are both like crazy about being safe, you know, with quarantine. You know, like I didn't really see my friends for a while. You know, like my buddy had a baby. I've seen the kid one time from a distance. Like, you know, I haven't got to like hold her or like officially meet her yet. So we've been like crazy about it. Yeah. So for me, it honestly, like not much has changed either. You know, work wise anyway, my job doesn't change. You know, I can do voiceovers right here. There's a microphone. I got my setup right here. I can edit all my video. You know, like me and Jake started doing the podcast remotely. OK Gamers, we already did that remotely. So not much really changed, like work-wise. Work kind of stayed the same, you know. I did start to get a little bit of like, you know, just cabin fever, like going a little stir crazy because I live in a very small basement apartment, not a lot of sunlight. You know, I got 2 windows. One has a permanent air condition that no light comes through. The other one's in there. So most of my days would be spent right here working, and then when I was done I would switch over to games, which is right here. So I got really used to just like sitting in this chair at this spot looking forward, and like just started to get like a little crazy with it, you know. I was very happy to like start going back to the office because I was getting ready to burn my apartment to the ground. I was just sick of looking at it, you know.
Yeah, I talking to a few of my dev buddies, the vast majority of game developers started working from home as well. And some of them love working from home, and other ones are like, I need that drive, right? Like the drive from home to work, you know, to kind of decompress and stuff. And I'm the same way. If I had to work from home, I'm like you, I'd burn my house down. Like there's just
I hate it, man. Separation also between like it prevents you from having to bleed into your like outside of work hours and
I mean, there were like benefits to it, you know. Like I liked being able to like take like an extra long lunch and like make something like for real, you know, not just like, you know, because at game ranks we're like we go, and we're lucky if we stop to eat, and if we do, it's at our desk or we go to 7-Eleven and get like garbage just to like shovel into our mouths quick just to get us through the day. So being able to like stop and like, you know, cook something on the stove was like, you know, like that was like nice. Or making a cup of coffee and like sitting outside for a second, like that, you know, stuff like that was like nice. But overall, I hate it. Like I you know, we're getting snow tomorrow, and I'm like dreading
here.
Hell
I might have to work from. I love snow, but like I don't want to work from home on Monday. I might risk my life, just go out into the snow just to go to the office and sit there for 6 hours, 8 hours, however long I work. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, we just got like a foot and a half of snow, and then we're about to get more as well. So
I know, and I'm so pissed about that because I just finished shoveling my like, you know, 16,000 square foot mountain driveway like this of a foot of snow, and then we're getting more snow tomorrow.
Coming right back.
Yeah.
You need to get a 4-wheeler with a plow on it, Don.
I do. My neighbors have them, but yeah, I need to.
But all right, so Don, you actually changed jobs right like at the start of the pandemic. So what was kind of that like?
So it wasn't just changing jobs. I also changed roles in my house. So I'm married. Right before the pandemic started, my wife got like her dream amazing job. It pays great. It's what she's always wanted to do. At the time, I was working like 50 hours a week at a residential facility for kids with mental illness. And I hated the job. I was miserable. So that gave me the opportunity to step back and go back to private practice. Now, I didn't have a caseload already built. So it wasn't just that like I'm now working remotely from home, because we have like a software we use. So all my sessions take place right here. It's remotely, during the pandemic at least. But I also went from being the primary breadwinner worker to more of the house husband who has like a part-time job and streams part-time, / dog babysitter, because we also got a bloodhound shortly before the pandemic also, and he was a puppy. So that has been hard. At the beginning of the pandemic, I hated working from home because my sessions would constantly be interrupted by like the bloodhound howling and the Scotty barking at them because he doesn't like other dogs. And I mean, I got pretty fed up with that pretty quick. I'm starting to adjust, and I actually enjoy it now. I took that opportunity to start a YouTube channel, so I'm working on that also now. So it's been a mixed bag, but I mean, compared to other people I know, 2020 actually treated us really well. I mean, my wife got an amazing job. I actually enjoy what I'm doing now. I'm not making as much money because I work like 10 hours a week as I'm building my caseload up. But surprisingly enough, who would have thought in a pandemic when people are out of work and with our healthcare, people can't afford therapy? Who would have thought? Great time to switch over to private practice, right?
Just cut out your avocado toast, Don. Jeez.
I know, right? That's yeah. There you go.
Where's your rainy day fund, Donald?
Less avocado toast, more therapy, you're good to go. Yeah.
So we've talked about how the pandemic kind of affected us. Let's talk about how it affected gaming, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit. Personally, for me, I give every game developer a pass for 2020, right? So let's talk about Siege for a little bit, because Don and I both play Siege. Andrew, you've dabbled in the Siege world, so you understand that it's a live service game, you know. And Siege, they had already announced they were going down to one operator a season. They're going to focus more on map reworks as opposed to full-blown brand new maps and stuff. And that was all announced before the pandemic. So they already had their plan lined out. If you think Ubisoft doesn't have like this game lined out through like year 8 at this point, you're probably crazy. Because we're about to enter. Yeah, we're about to enter year 6, and if you think that they don't have ideas planned through year 8, then you're out of your mind. Because you can't just be like, I want to make this map. Oh, the new season's in 3 weeks. Got it. Right? Like they can't just do that. No. So, but the adjustment of working from home and everything like that, I do give developers a pass for 2020. I know everybody harped on Cyberpunk, but Cyberpunk was more of a thing of like the community was like, release the game. And they were like, it's not finished. And they were like, we don't care. Just release the game. And then they released it. And I was like, this game's not finished. And CD Projekt Red's like, we fucking told you that it wasn't ready yet. But
it seems as they're bored. I saw some like interviews and like letters and things. It seems like the developers were begging, like, this game's not ready, and the board were like, go with it anyway, guys.
That's a whole nother argument. I mean, you can make that argument about like Call of Duty and why games get released when they're unfinished. It's because of shareholders and investors and all that fun stuff. But like I said, I personally give developers a pass for 2020. You know, do it now. Does that mean that they're not? Does that mean that they're like immune from criticism? No, absolutely not. But I think in 2021, if they're going to continue to work from home, they've got everything kind of set up and everything. But when you look at 2020, like I said, some of the games got delayed. Some of them got pushed back way further than, you know, like Halo. Halo's been pushed back how many times now? You know, like Cyberpunk, same thing happened to Cyberpunk. The Last of Us Part 2 got pushed back a few months. Well, it got pushed back indefinitely, and then they were like, no, we're going to release it like in the middle of the year. So when you look at gaming, how do you think the pandemic affected gaming overall? And I'm not talking about like just games, but even stuff like we've seen GameStop pretty much just die. You know, they've had a resurgence, but as someone who's been following the stock, it's quickly on the downturn again. You know, so
down to like 60 or 80 last time I looked.
It was 60 this morning.
Okay, yeah, that's when I looked. 60.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any tears over GameStop going under anyway, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's my former employer you're talking about there, bud.
$5,000 worth of gear. Best Buy gives you $1,550 and store credit or $250 in cash. It's like, yeah, fuck you guys. Come on now. I think it's interesting that like the pandemic, and it should have been the best time for gaming, right? I mean, you would think like everyone's stuck at home if you're being responsible and you're not a frontline worker. You know, it's the best time for it. But on the flip side of that coin, all developers having to get used to working from home. I mean, it's sad because it definitely could have been the year of gaming. Like I used to joke when the pandemic started that like I've been training for this from a young age, ever since I had the original NES. My ass has been training to be stuck at home with nothing to do but play video games. Like, you know, sad. There was even some games that came out and just disappeared. Like, what was it called? Like Disintegration, something. It looked kind of like a rogue
yeah,
company, like
Disintegration.
yeah, that game like
Came
it was
and
like
went.
Amazon's first, and it
Mhm.
just it disappeared like overnight. It was out for like a month, and they were like, "No, this sucks. We're just gonna
Sorry.
pretend it never happened."
I think this year is where we really see the effect that the pandemic had on gaming. I mean, gaming development anyway, because you got to think like games like The Last of Us, Cyberpunk, like they were nearing the end. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You got to think the kind of games that were in pre-production or early production in 2020 that aren't even announced yet, or were going to just get announced, but everything got pushed back. You know, like I think this year, 2021, is going to be. Compared to the last few years of gaming, like pretty slim. There's gonna be like a bit of a drought. Me and Jake were talking about it yesterday. That since I started at Game Ranks, which 5 years, I don't even know. I don't know how long I've been at Game Ranks, but however long I've been at Game Ranks, it's been like nonstop. You know, where I remember being a kid, or even like teenager, early 20s, where you got that game and that was your game for like 3 or 4 months. You know, that doesn't happen anymore because you've had just everything's just coming out. So I'm always trying to blast through shit to stay relevant for work. And it's been like that since I started. But like this year is going to be probably the first year since I've been at Game Ranks where it's not like that. You know, this year is where you're going to see a lot of games not coming out because of COVID.
Is it going to be a lot of reworks? Like remasters, because I mean, like I feel like we saw that a lot in 2020 also, right? Like
That really has been the trend.
Yeah. It's been the trend for a few years now.
Movies, like let's just redo old stuff because we, either can't come up with new things or it's just easier.
Yeah, maybe. Could be.
I think
we could see more of that.
I think with kind of like what Andrew said, where it's like all those games that were in like pre-production or like just in the very early stages of building, they are going to take longer now to come out. I think we're really going to start to see games as a service really start to expand even further than they already have, right? When you're looking at games like Destiny, Siege, Tarkov, kind of, those games where it's like
free games all the free games too.
Oh yeah, like
Rogue
Fortnite, Rogue
Valorant.
Company, you can throw that in there, Valorant. Those are the kind of games that I think you're going to start to see take over the market, because the game's already built. Now you just have to support it, right? And we've seen Ubisoft is famous for this model at this point. They've done The Division, they supported Assassin's Creed, not Valhalla, Odyssey for so long after the game launched, with updates and weekly challenges and stuff like that. Obviously Siege has been like their front runner in that, but we've also seen games as a service games kind of die. Like look at Overwatch. Overwatch is kind of dead, but I think that falls more on Blizzard not supporting their game nearly as much. Because I had this argument with Teddy, friend of the show, Loud Birthday on Twitch. Go check him out. He's
he's
all right. Yeah, he's all right. He's got funny hair. He's an Overwatch fiend, and I keep telling him like the mistake that Overwatch is making is they're putting out one new hero a year. Like you can't succeed with that model. People are just going to lose interest, right?
They must all be that whole team must be working on Overwatch 2, even though that got announced and that's not coming out this year.
Yeah. So I mean, it's but I do think that we're going to start to see more games as a service kind of be the norm moving forward, because like I said, once you build it, now you just have to support it, right? And look at fucking Rockstar. They're still milking GTA Online, and they're going to continue to milk it. Like, and honestly, as much as I want GTA 6, you can look at the amount of money that GTA 5 is making. And honestly, if I'm at Rockstar, I'm like, why should we, obviously make something new, but why should that be the primary focus if this is our cash cow? You know what I mean? So I genuinely think that that's kind of going to be more of what we see. But let's talk about esports now. So Andrew, I know you're not as deep into the esports scene as maybe Don and I are.
I don't know much.
But Don, it's going to be a year since we've seen international Siege play. A full year, because for those of you who are living under a rock, Sixth Invitational was pushed back. Not only was this going to be the first year that it wasn't in Canada, because it's been in Canada every year, this is just the first year that it's not happening. At least not yet. So when you look at how these events are not happening, that's got to take a toll, and not just see like esports conventions, right? E3 was already kind of on the decline, right? We've already seen like Sony not show up to E3. Nintendo really never showed up to E3 period. You know, Nintendo started doing what is it, Nintendo Direct, their videos that they put out. Sony has Days of Play that they put out. Xbox was really the only one that was showing up to E3 over the last 2 years, you know.
And they were barely showing up. They weren't even part of E3 anymore. They were down the road. They were separate.
Right. It was just happening during E3, right? So when you look at how the pandemic has affected all, I'm guessing PAX isn't happening this year. At least not PAX East up in Boston, because that would be within the next month, right? That's usually right around March. So I'm guessing that's not happening. Who knows if any of the other ones might happen, but do you think that this could be the end of like conventions? Like, because they were already on the decline, you know?
Yeah. I don't think so I wouldn't put E3 and PAX in the same category. You know, PAX is more like a Comic-Con. E3 is just like announcement city. You know what I mean?
Right.
We'll start to kind of. The reason E3 was transitioning into more of a convention was because it wasn't doing well on its
previously.
own. Yeah, so I don't think it's the end. No, I think once we're like allowed to go outside again and like actually be in groups of people, if people want to even do that, I've barely been sick this past year, so I'm kind of like I might just never go into a group of people ever again because I haven't even gotten a cold. But I think when people do, I think they'll be booming. The Comic Cons, the PAX, the stuff like that. Maybe not E3, but people that love nerdy shit, for lack of a better term, love to gather it with other people that love nerdy shit and just be about it together. Like that's my favorite part of PAX, is just being in this big convention hall packed with people that are there for the same exact reason that I am, that love all the same things that I love, and I think now more than ever people are going to want to be doing that like more, so your PAXs will be fine once they come back. E3, I don't know.
But do you think you could have the firework effect where it's like a big flash, like the first year back that everybody gets to go, it's like, okay, we finally get to go to a convention, big flash, and then like the next year it kind of dies off a little bit?
I don't think it will. I mean, look at Comic-Con. Every year I feel like Comic-Con is like, it's insane. That line is like in Manhattan anyway. That line's going for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks just to get into the convention center.
Same with Gen Con in Indianapolis, and that's been going on since, I was like 13, 14. Gen Con is the more like card game, role-playing game, board game convention. Where they
and it's big?
Oh, it's big, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that stuff will ever die, honestly,
Well, I mean, the only thing that I really have to compare it to, and Dawn was there as well, was the Raleigh Major back in 2019, right? Now, that was only Siege, but that arena was fucking packed, bro.
That'd be so cool. I would love to go to something like that.
Like,
it was fun, man. I had a blast.
It was literally just a bunch of Siege heads getting together, and it didn't matter who you bumped into, they were cool, right? The cosplayers were going all out with their stuff, man. And quite frankly, to wear that much gear, because we're talking people that dress in full military garb in Raleigh in August.
Raleigh had Raleigh News had like articles up about like, everyone stay calm. The convention center is not special news. Like, these are cosplayers.
That's
well, because there was a dude in a full lion like hazmat suit, right? And some like people thought there was like a bomb threat that got called in or something. Like, it was insane. The police, like, there were police everywhere. We had undercover FBI people there. But just, like, the dedication to wear all that gear in 100+ degree heat in Raleigh. Like, because even inside the complex, it was not cool. Because there were so many people in there. It was so tight and packed and everything. That's why I just vibed in the media room. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate that hookup. I just vibed in the media room the whole time and watched on the TV where I didn't have to deal with all the other people, because as much as I like being around people who have like-minded stuff. I'm really quite an introvert, which is why, like Dawn, I was like, oh, I'm built for the pandemic. I don't have to go outside, right? Till you realize that you're being told you can't go anywhere, and then the rebel in me kicks in, and I'm like, well, I kind of want to go now. Like, now that you're telling me that I can't, like, I want to go to the movie theaters. Oh, there's not even a movie I want to watch, but I want to go, but I don't think those ones will be dead, but I think E3 already being on the steep decline might not recover. Just because, again, nobody's going to E3, when Sony can just put out a video every couple of months, here's what we're working on, and you can watch it on YouTube while you're eating Cheetos.
Hell yeah, man. I could watch it in my underwear. Are you
That's
serious?
what I'm saying.
I gotta put pants on. It's already better.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I don't think it's going to be as big a boom as maybe you're talking, Andrew, but I don't think they're going anywhere either. So
casualty though may be actual esports and esports organizations, because esports is already not profitable for the orgs.
Right.
Like, it's not. And like that we've already, and in Siege, I don't know about in like Overwatch or Counter-Strike, but I know in Siege we've seen lots of orgs go under and have to pull out, and some of these are big orgs that just had to pull out because it's they can't afford it. I mean, so the pandemic, depending on how long we drag this out, and I say we because there's still people not wearing masks, not being safe. It could kill esports. I don't know about big conventions though. Like, as long as there's, like we said, nerds who love doing nerdy stuff with other nerds, there'll be conventions. But esports, the orgs may go under.
When you look at Nadeshot, right, owner of 108 Thieves, shout out Nadeshot because he needs it.
Well, they're not an esports org. They're a clothing brand. Come on now.
Yeah, they're a clothing brand with an esports team.
Yeah,
but everybody asked him why he didn't join the CWL the first year, right? And he's like, it's a $10 million buy-in. Those orgs will never make that money back. The Overwatch League was even more insane. I think the Overwatch League was like $25 million buy-in to get into the Overwatch League. And look at what the Overwatch League is doing. It's dying. Like, League of Legends is like your only real profitable esport at the moment, because League of Legends has just been going for years, right? But are you really looking to invest, especially right now? You're going to look to invest that much money in an org knowing that, one, there's no LANs, right? So there's no LAN tournaments, no exposure on that end. And at the Raleigh Major, we saw teams set up booths to sell merchandise and stuff. So you're not getting that experience where you can go and sell merchandise and interact with the players and sell things like that. Man, I think esports is going to be affected a lot more than conventions, but I still think conventions will be affected. So we're about to get into our last topic here. Anyone in chat who have been hanging out, thank you guys. We see you. Go ahead, leave some questions or anything you would like to hear us discuss. So we're about to enter our last topic, which is just a general mental health discussion, right? Obviously, Dawn, you're a therapist. Andrew, you've been very public about mental health, and you've used your platform to discuss why taking care of your mental health is very important. You've discussed it quite a few times. I kind of do the same thing. All three of us are dudes. We're all bros. We're all manly men. And there is the stigma around, like, men are allowed to feel anger and that's it, right? Like, men don't cry. Men are soft if they cry. A lot of that toxic masculinity that's out there. Why is it so important? Not just now during the pandemic, but I think people are starting to realize mental health is important now during the pandemic, but why is it not just during times like this? Is it important to take care of your mental health just overall?
I mean, there's a connection between your mental health and your physical health. Like, first off, I mean, it's the mind and body, it's completely connected. Like, really bad anxiety can lead to hypertension, which can lead to death. Eating disorders are the #1 killer of mental illness. Like, so in general, mental illness is completely tied to your physical health. So you should view it less as, I have an issue with my brain, I'm defective, more as like just like a general health and wellness thing. Like, if you have a heart condition, you're going to go to a doctor and get it taken care of. If you have a mental health issue, you go either to a therapist or a doctor and get it taken care of. I mean, we need to view it less as a moral character defect and more of like a physical health condition, because the more studies that come out, there's genetics are a huge part of this, your neurochemistry, it's all connected. So it's a physical issue.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I've seen my body like be affected physically by my mental health. 2020 in particular, minus all the COVID stuff, was probably one of the roughest years um of my life. Especially to my mental health, and it actually finally was like the last nail in the coffin for me to like start making moves. And like I see a therapist now. I take medication every day.
Good for you.
And yeah, it's like I haven't found a way to like talk about it like publicly yet without just being like blah, because like I still have like that, like that's like I don't like talking about me in that extent, not because like don't look how weak I am, because I don't see it as a weakness, but more of just like I suck. No one deserves to just like listen to me, because why would you want to hear about it? Like that's like how I am. But it was probably some of the best moves I've ever made, man. Like it's I look forward to my therapy sessions every week. I just got bumped to bi-weekly. I'm like kind of bummed about it, because I like talking every week. And
It means you're making progress, though. I do that to my clients also. I mean, it means
that's
making, and a lot of us therapists, especially during a pandemic, don't like to milk our clients. So I always tell them, like, when you start making progress and you're good, I'm going to put you to bi-weekly because, I don't want to milk you for all your money.
She like alluded to that. Like, I think you can go bi-weekly. Like, you don't need, like when I first started going, like my first few sessions, she was like surprised to hear how long I haven't been in therapy and how long I've been dealing with what I've been dealing with. And she was just, she like apologized. Like, I'm sorry that you've been feeling all of that for like 10 years and never did anything about it. Like, it must have been hard, and it was, my so I was diagnosed with just like general depression, I think. Is that like the
major
term?
depressive disorder?
Okay.
Probably is what
So
it was.
yeah. And then she said I had severe anxiety. That's where she put the emphasis on, was that, and talking to her about it more, it made me realize like how much it's gotten in the way of my life, it's gotten in the way of relationships, friendships. It's gotten in the way of opportunities, like, like professional opportunities. And it's been working against me for 10 plus years. And I have, kind of like no one to blame but me for not taking the step to like get better. And I don't know what it was, whether it was a fear of it or just feeling like I couldn't, but like finally like hitting a breaking point and making those steps. It's been like, whoa, like holy shit, how have I not been doing this for the past like 10 plus years? Because it's gotten me like, I don't know. It's just making me realize a lot of how I was brought up, about how my family treats me, and it just, makes me feel not crazy, for lack of a better term. It's amazing. It's great. And I urge anybody that thinks that they need it to just like, like do it. Cause I got bad, like my anxiety was getting so bad that like, I like developed a stutter out of nowhere. Because I would just have I had some very, very, very like crazy thing go down in my family life that's like hard to talk about, just in the sense of like I don't want to bring this podcast down to like
and that's
of realness, but like like bad, like a life was almost lost bad, and it was traumatizing, and it was really affecting me. That's why, because video games stopped for a while, is because I couldn't mentally handle it. That's why I stopped doing OK Gamers. I couldn't mentally handle it. Got in the way of my relationship. It was affecting my body. Like I wasn't sleeping. I just felt like shit all the time. I started smoking a lot of weed just to like
Self-medicating.
Yeah, just to like slow down, because I always felt like I was like doing this, like just like freaking out like the whole time, but also feeling slow at the same time. It was like just like hard to explain. And all it took was like a few sessions, even before I started taking medications, a few sessions just started fixing me and easing my anxiety and just making me feel like it was almost instant. It like blows my mind how quick it was,
Yeah,
so
and
thank you for doing what you do, Don, because you seriously work if you're anything like who I talk to, you're a literal magician, and I don't understand
So
how y'all do it.
So I just want to say this one thing, and like I've had people say that before. You put the work in to get better. So like therapists, for any geeks out there who's read Dante's Inferno, you're Dante, we're Virgil. We guide you through hell on your journey, but like we're just a guide, right? Like we don't have a wand. Really, you're the one who put the work in to get yourself better. Your therapist was there to guide you and like help you on the way.
Even then, it's still just having that guide, just having that, that's still like someone that didn't have it for 10 years. I was like, I needed that. Like I needed someone to guide me, like.
Yeah, and I don't mean that statement to say you shouldn't go to
No.
Everyone within them has the ability for recovery. It's just a matter of like, sometimes the easiest solutions aren't so obvious when you're stuck in the mud. But someone who's standing outside can look in and be like, well, lift your feet. Let me help you. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's
that's
great.
like what we were talking about Thursday, Don, when you were streaming. It was like, I'm the firm believer that 99.99999% of people would benefit from going to therapy. Even if it's just to vent, just, Andrew and I, we're buddies, but if I'm like, dude, I'm having a fucking rough day, there's this, and this going on, I'm sure you'd be like, bro, that sucks. Like, I'm here for you if you need anything, right? But, and no offense to you, Andrew, you don't have the tools to help me deal with that. Right?
No, I don't.
Whereas a therapist, someone who's a neutral third party, and also like you're my buddy, so you're going to look at it from the aspect of my friend, right? Whereas a therapist is going to be that true neutral third party and be like, I'm going to look at this from a professional angle, someone who doesn't know you as a friend, and that's where my advice is going to be coming from. And I think that's why most people, and again, I'm talking the overwhelming majority of people, could benefit from some type of therapy. Whether it's just a monthly vent session, I'm like you, I'm at the point now to where I go bi-weekly, right? And if I miss that, that means I'm going a month without therapy. And it hits. Dawn fell victim to that not too long ago. I definitely snapped while playing games one night and just, I lost it because I just hadn't been to therapy in over a month. And that really, really affects people outside of you, and that's not good. Like at all. Yeah. So
it's not, I've been on the receiving end of that too. Like I guess like the Don in this scenario, but like not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like,
like
it can be rough on the people around you.
Yeah, and Don and I talked about it and we're good now. Yeah, but it was just one of those things to where it's like, until you step back from the situation, like you said, you really don't know what you're doing to other people as well as yourself, and that's, mental health is just so important. And I'm in the same way. I've never been the perfect example of taking care of your mental health, right? Because like I'll go to therapy and I'm like, oh, I'm good, I don't need therapy anymore. And then like I'll go like a year or two without going to therapy and it's like, fuck, I was wrong. Like, you gotta,
I have a client like that right now who I saw when I used to be at this practice, and then she was fine. She's like, I don't need this anymore. And then she reached back out and was like, nope, I was wrong. So
yeah.
But yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is like, I think we need to get over this hump of, if you need therapy, there's something wrong with you. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. Depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Your body isn't giving you what it needs. Same with, anxiety and all those things. And usually it's something traumatic that happens that, can trigger those things. And maybe then you just need short-term therapy. Or maybe you were just born with a chemical imbalance in your head and you need medication to sort you out, or, whatever. And if you need medication, that's great. Don't be embarrassed about it. If your back hurts, you take Tylenol. If your brain's messed up, you take what you need. That's just how it is. You're not going to see somebody be like, oh man, my back's all messed up. Well, here's some Tylenol. No, I need the Tylenol. They're going to take the Tylenol, man. Why treat your brain any different than your back or a sore elbow if you play sports or anything like that?
Well, that's the thing. There are a lot of people that are like that, like they're just like, oh, well, suck it up.
Pain is weakness leaving the body.
Exactly.
and that's toxic masculinity, which we don't have time for in 2021. Like, it's just,
so I think people also need to remember that, like, so on average, 10% of the population in the world has some sort of mental health issue. So it's not as uncommon. And I know when you're in that place, it feels like no one can understand what I feel like. But like it's very common. I mean, amongst our youth today, depression, anxiety, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's astronomically high. I mean, it's very common. I feel like there's like 1 in 4. I just pulled that number out of my butt. But anyway, yeah, it's really common.
Yeah,
so you're not alone. It's very common.
No, it's you know, it's nice to know that it is common, you know, because for a while, I think part of the fear of wanting to go to therapy was the fear of knowing that there was something wrong with me, you know. But when in reality, finding out that there was something wrong with me actually made me feel better. It's like, oh, so like that was kind of why, like there was like it wasn't just this is how it like just it but that's why it was that way, you know. And like seeing streamers and other video game personalities like on Twitter like tweeting about it, you know, like Bloody Faster will tweet out every once in a while when she's having a bad day. I've seen Meg Haley do it. I've seen Continue do it, you know. Like it's always just like nice to see, you know, and like nice to know that like I'm not alone, you know. And growing up, it was the same reason why I listened to a lot of punk and a lot of hardcore, because they were singing
friends. I love punk and hardcore.
Yeah, they were like singing about similar things, you know. You have bands like Blacklisted, you know, their whole album Heavier Than Heavy and Lonelier Than God, it listens like a cry, not a cry for help, but like a look, this is just what I feel like, what's up, you know. Same with their, you know, every other release that they've put out, and it's just like it's like I'm sorry you feel that way, but also like it's nice to know that like there's like I'm not the only one, you know, like, which is why I try to talk about it as much as I can, you know, just to be like, oh, like, you know, look, oh, it's fine, you know. I have people DM me sometimes, they're just like, hey, thanks for that, because like me too. And it's just nice to know that like, you know, Andrew from Game Rings is also sad all the time, you know, like it's just, you know, it's, I wish I had more of that growing up, you know, like I really do, you know. I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody to share this feeling with, and I think it would have been a lot easier.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, but like I know
I'm 30.
Okay,
he's our age.
Okay, you're close enough though. Yeah, I mean, growing up in the South, mental illness definitely was, you know, here's the crazy I mean, lots of stigma. Here's the crazy person, or you know, this person needs to just suck it up, move, you know, be strong. I remember when I told my dad I was going to be a therapist, he thought it was very funny, and he was, I mean, and my dad, he's an academic, he's educated, but he still thought, he was like, really, that's what you want to spend your time with? Hearing a bunch of people bitch about their problems when they really should just suck it up and, you know, move on.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's how I was raised too. I mean,
it's a generational thing, I guess, man. Because the first time I told one of my parents, they the first time I approached one of my parents about like, hey, there's something wrong with me. I feel this way. It's like, it's keeping me from doing things. I don't feel right. I feel stuck, and I had to be like my first year out of high school, so probably like, I don't know, 20 or something, 19, whatever. And I remember having like breaking down into tears in front of them, and I ended up hiding in their closet because I just didn't want anyone to look at me, and they like thought it was funny. Like that's the reaction I got, you know. And I think that was the start of me ignoring it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, well, I opened up and look what you did, you know. And I've brought it up to them before, and they still won't acknowledge that they like what they did was like wrong. Yeah, and that's all it takes, I think, too, is like one little thing like that to just like, all right, well, next 10 years this is gonna fucking suck because I tried to get help, you didn't help. The one person that's like supposed to, the parent, you know. And it's a generational thing. It's just that generation doesn't get it, you know. They don't understand, and that parent still doesn't know how to deal with me 10 years later, you know.
See, like my stepdad was very similar. So backstory on my stepdad, he's a prison guard. He's very bring his work home with him, and he's always kind of been that way.
He's a tough guy. Like,
yeah.
Stern.
When I was 12, my mom was in a really bad accident. We almost lost her, and that's kind of when the depression and everything kind of hit, because at 12 years old, being told like your mom's probably gonna die, like, and not from like anything that could have been prevented either. My mom took a seizure while driving home from work, and at the time, my mother and my stepdad were separated. My stepdad manipulated her mentally because she has severe brain trauma now. Her short-term memory is pretty much gone. When she came to, she thought she was in high school, and she would have been in her 30s at that point. So just goes to show you like how much it knocked out of her, right? So my stepdad manipulated that, and I watched that, right? I watched my stepdad manipulate the shit out of my mother, and that really had a hard effect on me. When I got older, I wanted to move more into like music and art and things like that. My stepdad was like, no, what are you, gay? You're gonna play sports, right? And obviously now we look at that as like, that doesn't make you gay. Gay means you're attracted to the same gender, right? Like that's not, it doesn't have anything to do with it, right? But back, it's that old school mentality of toxic masculinity where men have to be the breadwinner.
Do manly shit.
Yeah, you got to work on cars and play sports, and you're not allowed to be artistic and things like that, because that's what women and gay people do, and that you're not that. I'll be damned if my son is that, and shit like that. And that really, really messed with me, and to the point now to where it's like, even now, like I did like tattooing apprenticeship for a while, right? Because I was like, it's art, but it's like manly art, right?
Oh,
maybe
that's dope. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Like maybe my and that's the other thing too, is like I've constantly been seeking my stepdad's approval, right? And as much as I say I'm like, oh, I don't need his approval anymore, there's always that little voice in the back of my head like, you're not good enough, right? Like it's still not good enough. No matter what you do, it's not good enough. And that's always kind of stuck with me, and that's like one of the hardest things to get rid of. But yeah, I was like, oh, I'll do tattooing because it's manly, it's tough, there's pain associated with tattoos. We all have tattoos. We all know they're not a walk through the park,
No,
so I was like, I'll do that. And he was just like, you're wasting your time, you're not good enough. Like, oh, okay. Like I thought this would be good enough, and he's like, no, it's not. Like, go fuck yourself, basically. And people don't realize how much that affects you later on in life. Here I am now, 30 years old, about to be 31, and for some reason I just want to stick it to this dude, right? And prove like, nah, I made something, right? I am better than you. And that's something that I've been working on, but it still fucking hurts, man.
I'm sure.
Like it
still
still hurts.
And like, so I mean, and I'm sure it does still hurt. And like,
yeah.
On the flip side of that, a lot of people instead will internalize those messages of, oh, I really am worthless. I really am not going to be good enough to do anything.
Oh, don't get me wrong. There's those days too. There are days where I'm just like, I don't have to be at work today. I'm just going to lay in bed all day.
Yeah.
Because what's it matter? When I used to play on console all the time, I had a buddy. I didn't get online for like 3 days. I literally had a buddy Facebook message me. Be like, yo, you good? Because like we used to play together every day. We played Destiny together every single day, 6 o'clock at night, because that's when he'd get off work and get home, get on, play Destiny, do our weeklies, do our dailies and stuff. Andrew knows the grind, the Destiny grind. And I didn't get on for like 3 days. And he was like, yo, you good, bro? And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm just not. And he was like, you need to talk about it? And I was like, you wouldn't get it. So, yeah, it's not easy, man. It's really not. And it's something that people need to take seriously, and I've had, since I've graduated high school in 2008, so 13 years now, I've lost 22 friends to suicide.
Damn.
Because of mental, depression, anxiety, whatever it was. And it's been all methods, overdoses, gunshot, hanging, everything, right? If you can do it to kill yourself, they've crossed the gambit. And that like weighs on you too, because you're like, what could I have done? You get a lot of the survivor's guilt and stuff like that. And when you have your own issues, right? And you're like, oh, I should have helped them, right? But at the same point, if you can't fix yourself, right, you can't help anyone else, which is why I'm just a huge advocate for fix your own shit first, because no matter what I could have done, they had made that decision, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing I could have done to stop that.
You know, that's the analogy I use for that, because I have something similar, is like when you're on a plane, they say, like, you know, make sure you put your own mask on first before you help anybody else, you know, and that's kind of been what I've been doing now, you know, like it's like, no, like I'm still putting my mask on, like you gotta
I use that analogy with clients all the time.
Oh yeah, and it's like perfect for me, and it, like, you know, I don't know where I heard it, but when I heard it, I was like, holy shit, that's it. That's it. That's what it is. Like, it's me. Like, 100%. You know.
Yeah, because I've worked with some, right now I have a parent who, I'm not going into his whole story, but anyway, I keep reminding him, like, you got to take care of yourself for your kids, etc. Like, you know, like, the path you're going on is not sustainable. And I use that same analogy of, like, the oxygen mask, put yours on first.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's so, like, to go with what you're saying, Crisis, you know, that's like your that's it, you know, like when you have thoughts like that, that's like, I don't have, you know, I'm sorry that it's extreme as, you know, losing people in that way, you know, my situation is drastically different, but that's what I keep telling myself, is like, you know, like, it's okay to worry about other people, like that's good. It shows that you're a human, you know, and you're not like, you know, a robot, but like, you got to do you first, you know.
And
like, that's what I keep telling me anyway.
And I think it needs to be said too, depression isn't just suicidal thoughts, right?
No.
Like, let's make that very clear, because I'm no matter how bad shit has gotten for me, I've never been like, I want to kill myself, right? To those that do go through that, you know, my heart reaches out to you and stuff, but we have this idea of like what depression is because the societal, you know, norms and whatnot. It's like, oh, you either want to kill yourself or you're not really depressed, right? And that's kind of, yeah, and it is. It's one of those things to where it's like, depression isn't just wanting to kill yourself. It's not showering for a week. It's, you know, calling off work even though you're not sick. You know what I mean? It's avoiding phone calls from friends and family. It's not playing video games if you love playing video games. You know, it's so much more than I'm sad I want to die. Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that we need to put out there into the world, is just that depression, anxiety, all these disorders are not something, first of all, to be romanticized, because that's something a lot of people do as well. They're like, oh, you have depression, that's cute, you know, or whatever. But it's also not something as just black and white as I want to kill myself or I don't want to kill myself. You know, like, that's not.
And to kind of prove your point too. So, like, since I'm a therapist, I have all my therapy shit right here.
Of course you do.
I do. So, okay, so all diagnoses that therapists use come from this book, the DSM. I'm not going to go through all the criteria, but just for major depressive disorder, which is like the most common form of depression, you only have to have 5 of the following 9 criteria to have it. So suicidal thoughts and behaviors and actions is just one of the 9. So you can have 5 different ones and not have any thoughts ever of wanting to die or killing yourself, and you can still be depressed. So that's just something to say. Yeah, like, you could be
one of 9.
With having depressed mood, like loss of interest or pleasure, weight loss, insomnia, feeling fatigued every day. There's 5. You could have depression without having any sort of thoughts of wanting to die or kill yourself. So
yeah, it's you know, it's, I guess it's just a little bit of like, you know, a lot of people are just uneducated on the matter, you know. And then also, I think when people think of like the same people that think that, oh, you don't want to kill yourself so you're not depressed, I think they also think that's the only form of self-harm. Is killing yourself or cutting yourself or stuff like that, you know. There's like knowing, like having an opportunity, like, you know, that you worked for, or even one that you didn't work for, that just kind of pops up, like, you know, on your lap, like, oh, let me take it, and you somehow convince yourself not to. Like, I see that as a form of self-harm, you know, like, or like right now, like, I'm going through a little bit of a funk, so I've been like overeating to the point where like I can like feel it, and I'm like, that's not, I'm not like, you know, cutting myself or trying to kill myself, but that's self-harm in a sense, you know. Like, it's just I think when people think of self-harm, it's just like, oh, like all of this bad stuff, not just like, you had, like maybe I shouldn't have had 3 Korean fried chicken bowls 3 days in a row. Like, like, that's self-harm,
Yeah.
Like, it's this like depressed, self-fulfilling prophecy too, where it's like an opportunity falls in your lap. Your internal dialogue is like, well, I'm worthless anyway. I'm not going to take it. You lose the opportunity. See, I am worthless. I didn't get this opportunity. So it almost creates this like depressed, self-fulfilling prophecy of, miserable.
Yeah.
And just like with overeating, not eating, right?
Yeah.
You didn't do anything today. Why do you deserve food? Not taking care of your personal hygiene, not washing your clothes, not taking a shower, or not, anything like that. Like, it's amazing how much a hot shower can change your outlook on things, like
that's hot shower is like my 3 a.m. like I'm losing my mind fix.
Yeah.
I'll just take a shower at 3 a.m. and I come out, I'm like, all right, I'm like refreshed. Like now I can try to go to sleep. Now I can try to work through my feelings. Now I can just try to do whatever it was that was fucking me up to begin with.
Cold water is really good too. If you're really anxious and having like a panic issue, like dunking your face in cold water, it puts your body in this like automatic, I forgot the name of the reflex, but it's like I need to conserve oxygen, and it gets your heart rate back to a normal flow. It kind of like shocks your senses.
I'll try doing that then.
It's a good grounding technique, yeah.
My 3 a.m. shower will be a 3 a.m. cold shower.
If you're really anxious, I mean.
Yeah, well, that's what it usually is with me. I get the racing thoughts, and I can't even close my eyes and like try to fall asleep.
Another thing you could try is a really strong mint, and just like, or like a lemon, like bite into a lemon and just focus on like the the taste, the physical sensation.
I saw someone online that carries, like when you get takeout from like a diner or like McDonald's, you get those salt packets. I know. I was reading a thing online that this dude carries those with him, and whenever he's like getting worked up, he'll just rip it and like. It's probably an unhealthy way to do it, but it's like
I would suggest the mint or like biting.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like a similar thing.
It is, yeah. Grounding yourself in your senses. Yeah. What can you see? What can you taste? What can you feel? Yeah.
I know I carry around like those. They're not Mentos, but icebreaker mints, because those things are like some potent ass mints, especially like the spearmint ones or the wintergreen ones. Like I keep one in my car, I have one in my room, and I like if I had a real rough day at work and I'm just feeling anxious on the drive home, pop 2 of those in the mouth, and it kind of like you can breathe, you can focus, and you can get home. I mean, that's why people smoke, right? It's the fixation of the oral fixation of smoking and things like that, whether it's cigarettes or what. Obviously marijuana has the chemical difference to it than like a Marlboro cigarette or something, which, by the way, legalize weed. Fuck it. I said it. I don't give a shit. Just if alcohol is legal, why isn't weed? I'll tell you why. It's because William Randolph Hearst ran a smear campaign against him. But whatever.
For our Republican friends, you hate big government.
Yeah.
Legalize it.
Stick it to them. But yeah. So I feel like this has been good. It's kind of been like a mini therapy session for at least myself, probably Andrew as well. Yeah, it's been good. And like I said, if you guys can take anything away from this podcast, especially this part specifically, it's just take care of yourself, man. Like, don't, just because you're in quarantine or whatever and you're alone doesn't mean you don't have people out there that you can't reach out to. Like Don said, they're doing therapy sessions remote. If you truly want the help, it's out there, and I highly encourage you to seek it. And what's the worst that's going to happen? You go and it doesn't work, well, then you can move on to something. At least you tried, right? Yeah. The people who don't try, to me, are, the ones who either A, aren't ready, or B, don't care. Some people just aren't ready for it. They need that extra, support from a friend group or whatever to make that step. And it is a big step, it's not easy admitting to yourself that I need help, especially if you've been raised, sounds like Andrew and I kind of the same thing. It's like, deal with it yourself. Why do you need help? Just do it, Nike, not a sponsor, but I just strongly encourage you, especially, during times like this. If you need help, there's no shame in reaching out to anyone, because as I've said before, the world's better with you in it. So,
Yeah.
you
and
know,
I think this needs to be said also is the idea of, well, my problem's not as bad, right? So like, yeah, I feel kind of down and blue, but I don't want to kill myself, so others have it worse, so why go to therapy? What I tell people who say that is this, is if you're drowning in 25 feet of water, or if you're drowning in 5 miles of water, which is worse?
right.
You're both drowning.
Yeah.
Right? So like, even if you're not at the verge of like ending it all, but you still are miserable, go get help. I mean, it doesn't matter if someone has it worse, because you're both still drowning. So
Yeah, that's a very
I like
self-destructive.
that.
It's a very self-destructive mentality that I had to work through, because I was like, it's like, look, I'm not being abused, I'm not, anything like that.
Yeah,
But
man.
then you come to realize you are being abused. You're just being abused verbally, as opposed to being hit and everything else. So
Yeah.
it's growing up, I was like, it's not that bad. I can deal with it, right? Like, I have a place to sleep. I have food every night. Like, someone out there has it way worse than me, so it's
only
not
10 feet
that
of water
bad.
I'm drowning in. It could be worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So now that we've brought the podcast down, I'd like to thank both of you for joining me today. Let's try to find something to end this on a good note. Chat, if you guys have anything you would like us to discuss, put it in the chat right now. But yeah, let's try to end this on like a happy, good note. Sport ball is tomorrow. Talk about sports ball. I know both of you are so avid into sports.
Yeah, I don't watch any.
Yeah, I don't want that.
I don't even know who's in the Super Bowl this year. Who's playing?
Yeah, who is it?
Tampa and Kansas City.
Okay.
What are those what are their team names? Like
Buccaneers and
yeah, what are they?
Yeah, Buccaneers and Chiefs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tom Brady is gonna be number 7 Super Bowl.
I know who that is. He's
Yeah,
a
Tom
that's
Brady,
sport,
the GOAT.
man.
Oh, he's not on the Patriots anymore?
No, he got traded to the Bucks.
Why would you trade someone who's gotten you like 7, 8, 9? How many Super Bowl wins?
He has 6. He has 6, but he didn't get traded. His contract ran out, and literally he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna throw a dartboard. Tampa Bay, y'all want to win a Super Bowl?" Like, and now he's taking him to the fucking Super Bowl.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's just like, "Hey, y'all want to win a Super Bowl? Okay, let's go."
Puppy Bowl's tomorrow.
Yeah,
I love. You guys watch the Puppy Bowl?
Yeah, the Puppy Bowl.
I love the Puppy Bowl.
I'll mess around with that for sure.
Dude, we'll watch that shit tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, like I said, our boy Emrod King Renegade reminded me in chat. Our boy Mike Rodriguez, he's a Rain bro. He's big in the Siege community. He's fighting on UFC tonight. If you guys are interested in watching it, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be after the fact. But if you're watching it, if you're watching this live right now and you want to watch the fight, hit me up on Twitter. I'll get you a way to watch the fight. We're having a totally legal watch party tonight to view Emrod's fight. It'll be starting.
Come after you, dude. He's gonna be knocking on your door. Did you see that announcement Dana White made?
I don't give a shit about Dana White.
All you illegal streamers, I'm coming for you.
I'm not streaming. Listen, I'm not streaming it. All right, I'm not streaming it. So there you go.
Bust down your door, man.
Let him. I'll kick him in the teeth.
Surely he knows how to fight, right? He's with UFC. He should know how to fight or something.
I could beat Dana White. Confidence is key. But also heard there is coaches this year. It's Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg.
For the Puppy Bowl?
Oh, apparently.
What?
Really? I'll watch Snoop Dogg host anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
dude.
That's
Snoop
awesome.
Dogg's nature special that he did. Oh, that was
didn't see
so
that one.
good, man.
It was like him commentating, right? Like,
Yeah. He was doing like a voiceover for like it was like the Savannah or some shit like that. It's just it's so great, man. Let's see. Hambo says eyes. Hambo, tell us about the new stuff that's coming to Rainbow. There you go. We can talk
Also,
about
Chad,
that.
if you have any questions about what is therapy like, real quick, you could put that in there and I can answer that. Just because or we could all answer that. Because I think that's a big mystery also, is like, I don't want to do it because I don't know what it's like. So
I had that fear.
it's not an old
yeah,
dude
it's
having
real.
you lay down, stroking his beard, tell me how you feel. Like, that's not really what it's like.
I'll get you in there, Hambo. We're gonna be going live in about 2 hours with it, so I'll ping you on Discord. I got you, bro. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a good chat. It's been good to talk to you again, Andrew. I talk to Don all the time, so I don't need to tell him it's good to talk to him.
No,
But yeah,
Good to talk to you too. Yeah.
yeah, I miss our little chats. I know you've been busy.
I'm really
so.
hard. I'm really hard to be friends with. I don't make it easy.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's you're a very busy man. I don't wanna take time away from you and Nala. So
She
Is
doesn't
Martha
care. She hasn't looked at me once.
she don't give an F, bro.
No, she don't give an
But-
F about nothing.
Yeah, good Nala. Oh, there she is.
Oh, big yawn. I'm sorry. Did I wake you up?
Best girl, Nala. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for stopping by, Don, Andrew. Thank you for
absolutely.
Of course.
coming and hanging out with me. Don't
Anytime.
forget, guys, we are raising money all year long for Able Gamers. If you're watching this right now, you can ! Able Gamers in chat. If you're watching this
Thank
on,
you for that.
yeah, absolutely, man. If you watch this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description. You guys can go donate. It's all going through Tiltify because if you go to their site, that's actually how they recommend you do fundraisers. So I don't see a cent of it. None of it goes directly to the charity. I don't see a cent of it. So if you donate, it's going directly to the charity. Doesn't even come through me and then I send it. It goes straight through the charity, so you guys know that it's a legit setup, because there are a lot of fake donation shit on the internet, which is disgusting if you ask me. But yeah, so that's gonna be that. Don, where can the lovely people find you? You'll be linked in the description, but where can the lovely people find you?
So I stream on Twitch Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Normally it's like 7:30 p.m. I primarily play Siege. Thursdays Tarkov. Saturdays Dealer's Choice. Whatever I want to do. I'm also on Twitter. It's at DonTony_Lamb, and I'm on YouTube now. So that's also Don Tony Lamb on YouTube.
And Andrew, who doesn't stream anymore.
No, it's a thought. Don't worry.
Oh,
You can find me on Twitter at Gebbia. You can also find me over on YouTube at Game Ranks. You can find me on every podcast service because video games, and you can also find me on every podcast service at OK Gamers. I'm everywhere. There's enough for me to go around. So
I can say I've been listening to Because Video Games since its inception, the second time around, and it's worth the listen to. It's a bi-weekly podcast, comes out every other Wednesday. I listen to it on Spotify, which is the app of choice. But yeah, it's everywhere. I think except YouTube. You guys don't put it on YouTube because there's no video version.
yeah, we don't do YouTube.
Yeah, you should see
Yeah,
lovely boys.
We should do a lot of things.
Especially now that you're doing it remotely, you can just do like what we're doing and record it easy. Tell Jake to get on it.
We're both just so tired, honestly.
What do you guys have to be tired about?
All those
You guys-
things I just named.
But yeah, so that's gonna do it here for us today. Again, thank you both for coming and hanging out. I do appreciate it. Their links will be in the description. Apparently Andrew's gonna have 400 of them, but they'll be there. So with that all being said, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your morning, noon, or night, wherever you are. My name's Crisis. Good luck. Have fun. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye.